the silent heart. The rain fell in steady sheets over the cobblestone streets, turning them into glistening rivers under the dim glow of gas lamps. A woman stood beneath the awning of a small bookstore, her coat pulled tighter, her breath forming faint clouds in the chilled air. She had no umbrella, only the patience to wait out the storm. Across the street, a man sat in the window of a cafe, steam curling from the cup between his hands. His gaze lingered on the woman, not with boldness, but with quiet curiosity. He had seen her before, always alone, carrying a book, always pausing to watch the world as if it might whisper secrets to her if she stood still enough. When the rain eased, she stepped out, her boots splashing lightly through the shallow puddles. The man set down his cup, left coins on the table, and followed at a distance. Not out of intention, but because their paths. She turned down a narrow alley lined with ivy-clad brick, and he found himself walking the same way, though his usual route home lay in the opposite direction. She stopped at a bridge arching over a quiet canal, resting her hands on the damp stone railing. The man hesitated, then stepped beside her, keeping a careful space between them. Neither spoke. The water below reflected evening light, rippling with each drop that fell from the overhanging trees. Days passed in the same rhythm. The woman would appear at the bookstore, the man at the cafe. Sometimes their eyes met, brief and unreadable, before one or the other looked away. Once she left a book behind on a bench, and tracing the worn edges before placing it gently in the lost and found box of the shop she frequented. Winter came, frosting the city in white. The woman took to wearing a scarf the color of deep red wine, its fringe fluttering in the wind as she walked. The man began leaving earlier for work, adjusting his route just to catch a glimpse of the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way she paused at the same corner every day to watch the baker roll out his dough. One evening she did not appear. The man waited longer than usual, the cafe emptying around him, his tea gone cold. The next day, the bookstore was closed, a handwritten sign taped to the. He walked past her apartment building, though he had never followed her there. He knew which one was hers from the single lit window on the third floor, the shadow of a bookshelf against the curtains. Now, the window was dark. A week later, he saw her again. She was thinner, her face drawn, her steps slower. She did not go to the bookstore, but instead to the canal bridge, where she stood for a long time, her fingers gripping the railing as if it were holding her up. The man approached, closer than he ever had before, close enough to see the tremor in her hand. She turned her head slightly, sensing his presence. For a moment, they simply existed in the same space, the silence between them heavy with unspoken things. Then, without a word, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small fold. She held it out, not looking at him, her arm steady despite the cold. He took it. Their fingers did not touch. When he unfolded the paper, it held only an address and a time. The next evening he went, unsure what he would find. It was a hospital. The woman sat in the lobby, her coat draped over her lap, her eyes tired but clear. When she stood, and for the first time she smiled. Small, tentative, but real. He followed her down the hallway to a room where an older woman lay sleeping, her breathing shallow but even. The woman he had watched for months reached out and adjusted the blanket over the patient's shoulders, her touch gentle. Then her eyes asking a question he could not hear but understood all the same. He nodded, and just like that, without a single word, they began.